board meeting process, please seek out one of the board members for clarification. Are there any addition or deletion of items to the agenda? No? All right. Moving on to our consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support. Wow, okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that motion carries. We'll move on to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
I do not have any today.
All right. And we'll move on now to comments from the audience on the agenda items, public comments. This is a section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about the agenda items. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow the others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do we have any public comments for tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to our presentation on the Bookworm curriculum. So, you're up.
I'm Hillary Hyde. I'm a kindergarten teacher. And the elementary school was a recipient of a grant that funded the HILL project. HILL stands for High Impact Leadership, which focuses on school improvement in leadership and literacy. At the beginning of this project, people came into our classroom and observed. They were looking for strengths and opportunities for growth. After they shared their observations with the teachers, as a school, we collectively agreed that we needed alignment in our building. We needed to use the same vocabulary, routines, assessments, etc. from classroom to classroom so students can have consistency from one grade level to the next. The HILL team looked into a curriculum called Bookworms, which is evidence-based and focused on the science of reading. Every component of this curriculum is significant to effectively and efficiently allow teachers to explicitly teach young children how to become successful readers. Over the course of 2 years, we have implemented Bookworms. We have been getting noticed. We have had teachers and literacy coaches from around the state come into our classrooms and observe us teaching this curriculum. I think last week or a couple weeks ago, someone from another state actually reached out to Jennifer asking about Bookworms. And I think that's pretty cool. The Bookworms is fairly new. It has placed us at the forefront of literacy instruction, and other people are coming to us to see our success. Last week, the HILL team attended a summit where we were able to reflect on the progress we have made, recognize where we are now, and what we need to do to keep pushing forward. One of the assignments was to create a visual that represents our journey. It is over there on that table. We didn't have tape to stick it up, but we'll leave it up after the board meeting if you want to take a look at it. And it was Kat's idea, and she did a really good job of illustrating where we were and how far we've come. But as we look at it, you'll see there's many ups and downs, but as a school, we persevere. The most noticeable difference with this program is that students love to read. They get excited about text and have meaningful discussions to relate books to their personal lives and other books we have read. The kids are engaged in their learning. All right, I'm Catherine Nixon, third grade teacher. The end of the year typically includes many days of testing. We understand the importance of district and state testing to measure student growth and understand what we as teachers need to focus on most in our lessons. However, we know that members of the community don't get to hear about what is actually going on in our classrooms. The stuff district and state testing doesn't measure. We adopted the new reading and writing curriculum Bookworms during the pandemic. This team, Nikki, Hadulu, Hillary, and I, and then Mary is our HILL facilitator. If you want to raise your hand, say hi. And Jennifer, of course. We worked for days about this shift that we were about to make before the 2021-22 school year. We were prepared for many conversations and meetings about the logistics surrounding the implementation.
But what came as a good surprise were the conversations between staff members discussing not only student progress, but also various "that gave me chills" stories. For example, in 3rd and 4th grade, students write super sentences to show their understanding of a specific vocabulary word. An extremely shy student, whom the teacher had a hard time getting to know, asked for help writing a super sentence. The teacher doesn't remember the word, but does remember that through the who, what, where, when, and why questions about that word, the teacher is me. To create a sentence that related to their life sparked a truly incredible conversation that brought the student and teacher closer. The student used this moment with the teacher as an outlet to express the hardships that were taking place at home. Their confidence during super sentence time grew tremendously. From that point on, the teacher looked at the super sentences block in the reading curriculum in a whole new light. That student ended up moving mid-year. It was one of this teacher's hardest goodbyes. Our staff, and specifically our team, has discussed how the rich literature of Bookworms has opened the minds and hearts of students who typically don't enjoy reading. The whole class discussions about real-world events, heartbreaking moments, and problems to be solved are inspiring and motivational. Some students who have a hard time test taking will use their strengths during class discussions. We hear references to books all year long, and we've even had students encourage their parents to read a specific book at home. Each grade presented a book review advertisement to the book grade below them. During this time, they were able to reflect on the year as readers and writers, and display what they learned and loved in a creative way. The video we're about to show you is a small example of the commitment, hard work, excitement, and accomplishes that not only our students celebrated, but also our teachers. Thank you for your time and enjoy. It was kind of difficult to get the volume straight because obviously some students talk louder than others, so I'm going to have to adjust as we go.
It saved me when I read and wrote. I could get feelings out without having to talk. It feels so amazing to let it all out on paper. Towards the middle of the year, I felt much more emotion for reading and writing. I got better and better at reading and writing. I feel so amazing at reading and writing. And every day, every time I pick up the journal. And so at the end of the year, I feel so great. And I think I am too, but my third grade teacher knows I am overnight. If Mrs. Nixon has taught me anything, it was to be patient with time. If you rush time, you will miss the best parts of the school.
What is your favorite part of this part?
My name is Alan. I love Fred and Ted because it's very awesome. It has very cool pages.
All right, Matthew, how did you change as a writer this year?
I put at the start of the year, I didn't know my words and letters, and I started thinking that, and then I started studying about the letters, and now
How did you change as a writer this year?
first as an author, I was You like blue? Blue? You like this? I like being smart. I felt more confident writing too because I love to read in classes so much. That was when my writing confidence made me more confident. I also became better at speaking and had a lot better energy. And finally, at the end of the year, I felt so much better seeing it. I could do better. Over the fifth grade year, I learned a bit about myself. I learned how to magically practice and I loved it. My third grade year made me love reading and writing so much.
To be a team, author, Roald Dahl. Miraculous book and excellent pictures. To be a team, I'm a friend. Was you able to see some of the other giants? It's a great book. Oh, grab your attention. And wait till you see it.
Okay, so this is a book of my history book. And it's about one China rabbit that makes number one disappointed and it's scary but beautiful. And have you ever wondered I lost my Shiloh sweet treat that I got from her. So Shiloh likes when I make it and Marty likes it. And then tomorrow takes care of him and helps him and helps him and his hurt. It feeds him and basically joy. He eats and he learns and stuff.
My favorite and Bookworms is Abraham Lincoln because, well, I like history and history is kind of historical. It means the same thing. Abraham Lincoln is a great book. It teaches us about Abraham's childhood and also his last chapter is about something he had.
My favorite thing about Bookworms is me learning about all the kinds of new things that, like, Poppy, we gotta learn, like, how a mouse is gonna get from Gray House to see what's in New House. And that was my favorite book out of Bookworms. And that's what I really liked about that.
First of all, thank you for bringing that. This is a lot more exciting than talking about budgets. It's important for people to see what we're doing. I think it's great. And we don't get the opportunity to do that. So thank you for bringing it to us. I appreciate that. sounds awesome. I guess my questions are, how do we keep it going? Because you guys have put a lot of effort into it. Is this something that's going to continue, or do you have to keep putting effort into it? How does it continue?
The Hill Project is really set up as like systems, right? So we've learned like a lot of systems.
Can you get closer to the mic, people on the line if they exist and hear you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
The Hill Project is set up as like a system, right? So we have learned all of these systems to put in place. So now we can take this, and our thought now is to take what we learned with the Hill Project and really focus in on literacy. Now we're going to apply the same systems practice to math. So it's really helpful in that area because it doesn't take a lot more work to keep it going. It's just that same system put in place. We just look at different areas and venues and go back and reevaluate. With Bookworms, they just came out with the updated version, so they kind of took our feedback, because this was the beta version that we tested and tried out, and they took feedback from everyone who had done it and they revamped it. And so we have that updated version that will, fix anything that teachers saw needed to be fixed. So I hope that answers your question. That's how we're going to continue.
So the Hill system referred to is fairly quick for new teachers to learn and get that easily to them.
Yeah, it's a team approach. So we use it like school-wide, and it will be a team approach. So we will use that to go in and go into classrooms and see, like, okay, what are the best practices that are going on? Here are some new teachers. We're going to get them into their classrooms and see these best practices. So that is kind of how the new teacher piece will tie in.
Is there anyone else who's using this system around us?
Yes. I don't know who all, but Mary could answer that question. We just went to the Hill Summit, and there were schools from Galesburg, Penfield. They had 4 summits. There's a ton of schools that are.
This is actually the 5th year of the High Impact Leadership Project. It was through Western Michigan University, and it's touched over 100 schools, mostly on the west side of the state. And the idea behind it is build that teacher leadership. And you have that here in these individuals. They're driving the work. Because a principal can't do that on their own, and we all know principals come and go, and initiatives come and go with principals, but when you have the teachers involved in the process, then they keep this work going. And the team that you have here is tremendous. They've been chosen for a research project, actually, because of the impact that they've had on the literacy skills of the students. So give them a round of applause.
I don't have a question, which is a general comment, because one of the things I like about it is that it is leadership based and it's a culture based system. So, thank you for the answers I got. But I really just wanted to give you all a round of applause, because being an ex-teacher myself, who I would say that the language arts was kind of where I wasn't as comfortable. So it's nice to have that core leadership group, and then you can all work together and show best practices, and then probably build those up that weren't so confident in it. So that's excellent, because it is hard. Sometimes you just feel like you're drowning, but you don't. You've got this core group of people that you can go to and see other people do great things.
And we've created, as part of like the Hill Project, they have gold standards that they want us to incorporate. And so we created these gold standard guides for each aspect of ELA in particular, so that a new teacher can look at it and say, okay, here's my shared reading block of time, here's what it ideally should look like. It should include all of these components. So teachers aren't having to really guess, right? Like we did before, like, okay, I think it should include this, this, and this. It's really laid out for them for each aspect of observing.
I really enjoyed the video because it was really fun to see kids excited about reading and sharing their excitement with others. And so as a person who loves to read myself, I loved seeing that kids were loving reading. So good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, well, thank you very much.
You guys are welcome to come into our classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
the action items of our meeting tonight. The first is financials. Board action is required to approve the financials for the month ending May 31st, 2022. I would entertain a motion for the same.
I would make this motion.
Support.
I think she beat you to it, Rich. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, I see Darren's finger on the button.
The bottom line, end of this month or matter, so tackle it later.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that motion carries. Move on to millage levy resolution. Board action is required to approve the 2022 tax millage rate request report. Say that 10 times. Wow, that was a tongue twister. To the County Board of Commissioners. This report requests levying the allowable portion of the 18 mills on non-homestead, non-qualified agricultural property on December 1st, 2022. And that on all district properties, amount not to exceed the allowable portion of 4.5 mills authorized by the voters for sinking fund millages on December 1st, 2022. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support. Any discussion?
Right?
Pardon?
Basically, it's boilerplate. You have to use
Yes.
this.
Yeah, it is.
If nothing's changing.
Correct. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor are, do a roll call. That's right, it's our resolution. Holly, will you call roll, please?
Mathis,
Aye.
LeVar,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Searles,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Enoch, yes, Herman.
Yes. Thank you. Retirement. Board action is required to accept the retirement of Sheriff Truth. Sheriff has been both a paraprofessional and behavior interventionist in his 13 years with the district. I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
Sheriff's been amazing. It'll be a loss.
Yeah, I've worked with her all the way back to the unlimited days during the summer, and she's a great person, definitely missed. So thank you, Sheriff, for everything you've done.
Amen.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that motion carries. Hiring of night custodians. Board action is required to hire Thomas Olmsted at the elementary, Larkin Mongan at the middle school, and James Clark at the high school as the night custodian for each building. I would entertain a motion.
I make that motion.
Support. Any discussion?
It's awesome.
Woohoo!
Excellent.
Very
Excellent.
exciting
Excellent.
to see that group of individuals.
Absolutely.
I mean, ownership is important. These guys, people are part of the community, so that's great.
Yeah.
And I was excited to see that as things that were mentioned specifically. I mean, that was really awesome for me. Yeah. Great. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. And that motion carries. Hiring of elementary classroom teachers. Board action is required to approve the hiring of Elizabeth Stern for first grade at the elementary and Betty Culp as science academic interventionist teacher at the elementary. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. And that motion carries.
Welcome.
Yes. You're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Hiring of middle school, high school band position. Board action is required to hire Laura Bandlow as the middle and high school band teacher. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
Should change your name for the position.
I wondered that same thing when I saw it, and I, oh, that was a little ironic.
How many candidates do we have? Why? 16?
16. But it was a struggle because they were being snatched up one to the right. So we interviewed
I'm really glad that Jeff Lardis was involved in the hiring. That's a big plus for them.
We gave the stamp of approval.
He did, he did.
Any other discussion? Seeing none,
So you're doing exactly what Jeff did then, middle school, high school, band director.
All right, I will entertain, discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Neola. We had this as our second reading, and board action is required on volume 36, number 2 of Neola policies, guidelines, and bylaws. And I would entertain a motion. Oh, yes?
You have to make a decision regarding that checkbox on the bottom of those address policies.
Okay.
Whether you want to include that statement in the policy or not. So you may want to discuss and decide that. Currently, it is not checked, so it would not be included. So if you want to include that, that's based on my recommendation. If you want to include that, you'll need to check the box.
Can we have discussion on it without having a motion on the table?
No. So I just want to make sure that the motion, when you request a motion, that it's to pass it as it is, as opposed to with that checkbox checked.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion to approve them without adding the checkbox.
I second that.
Okay, now we can have our discussion.
If I could, can I give you some information?
Yes, I would like some
Regarding
information.
that, and talking with the representative from Neola specifically about this policy, he told me that by law under the current decisions that have been made in courts, that we do need to follow that in practice, otherwise we will be at risk of going to court if we do not follow that. But it is up to the board to decide whether you want to make that part of your policy or leave it out of the policy, and we would just follow that as a general course. He said districts go half and half. Some districts that he's worked with have about half include that, and about half don't. To me, the reason for not including it would be so that it's not there if the law changes. It would be the only reason to not include it. So I just left it blank, figuring all of you could make that very political decision.
And in the interest of being open with everybody, I think that the public should know what we're voting. We're voting not to check the box or whatever it is, and so that they would know what we're doing.
Sure. I'm trying to pull it up, so.
Do you know the policy number, Chris?
There's a whole bunch of them.
There
Yeah,
are,
no. Which one is it?
it's
The second one.
1616, 3216, 4216.
There are changes besides that though.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, but those are the ones, the issues that are not checked. There are other.
So what we are asking to have as a checkbox, we are discussing is change to policy that the board recognizes employees' rights to dress in accordance with their gender identity within the constraints of the preceding dress and grooming guidelines, which is basically neat, clean, manner consistent, and communicates how there's pride and damage to property, such as that. So that's what we're discussing.
And our motion would not check that box. We'd be legally obligated if somebody did to, we could go to court over, but we're choosing, if we vote for this, not to check the box. Is that correct?
That's the motion on the table, yes.
I'm not sure everybody understood.
Yep.
Just from a high level, you know, I don't want to get into what I did in my previous life, but I worked as striker and worked on a lot of documents and audits from the FDA, etc. And it's worse to have a policy that you don't follow than it is to not have a policy at all. And the more policies you have and the more stuff you shove in there, the more issues you're going to have with it, you know, later and so on. I'm not saying that we're anti, I just don't like a lot more policies that just creates hassle in my opinion, to over policy yourself. You need a policy, you make a policy, but have a policy just because I don't think it's value added.
I'm going to go with the exact opposite thought process, which is there's some protections that folks need, And by us voting not to include that, that's sending a message. And I don't want to send the message that as an organization, I'm not willing to protect people's rights. And under this particular administration, although he will follow that, even though it's not checked, that doesn't guarantee that the next won't.
They're advising us to put those checks in because people are going to court. So if we don't, we go to court, it's going to cost us.
Neola is saying that this policy would put us in compliance with recent court decisions. And that's why they proposed the policy. But they're also telling me that about half of the school districts they work with adopt that part of the policy, and about half do not. And that's a decision to be made by the school board.
Your risk of litigation is not whether or not you have a policy, it's whether or not you are infringing on someone's rights. So I'm not saying that we should infringe on someone's rights, I'm just saying don't make a policy about it.
But we're having a conversation about, even though it might not be policy, this is how we're going to do it. So we're creating a policy that doesn't specify the practice of the administration.
We're saying basically that.
No, we're saying if you follow A through E, which would include the checkbox basically.
No, it doesn't include the checkbox. We're purposefully not checking that
No, I'm
box.
saying if you are physically clean, neat, well-groomed, you dress in a manner consistent with professionalism, you know, if you follow A through E, there's no reason to add another checkbox in there.
I'm going to just respectfully disagree.
That's fine.
And I agree with you.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying I agree with your statement and your logic.
And I think simply saying the board recognizes employees' rights to dress in accordance with their gender identity, by having this conversation and not checking the box, we're not protecting the people that might choose to be a little bit controversial for some folks. And that protection will not be in place. We're hearing that the administration is going to protect those folks, but again, a change in administration could come with a completely different interpretation, and no, that has not been checked, and we did not say that as a board. I don't want to belabor it. I know how I'm going to vote.
Does anyone else have any other questions, comments, discussion?
Legally, it's different than checking a box, and I think it's less controversial if we don't check the box. Personally, I think it's we're representing a conservative community. I think by not checking the box, we're not checking the box. Legally, we have no control over what they do legally, but we do have control over what boxes we check. It's not against the law for us not to check that box.
I have a real problem not protecting the group that has the highest adolescent suicide rate nationally.
This is for teachers, isn't it?
I agree, but we're sending that message.
Is it for teachers? This is not.
It also includes students. All of those policies have this line, all of the dress code policies.
If we weren't going to allow it, we'd make a policy to not allow it. So I just don't like extra policies that.
I understand.
We cross the bridge if somebody complains, but we already know that what Neola is, and we know what our rights are. We have a right here to make a statement saying we have enough policies in place and we're going to check this box. Half the schools are doing that. It's not illegal for us to say we're not checking that box.
Ready to vote?
Is there any other discussion? right, to a vote.
So the motion is to approve it without the checkbox.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same.
Aye.
Does not pass.
I move to implement a policy that also includes the check box at the bottom.
Any support?
Support.
Any discussion?
So just to clarify, so we understand, you're asking that the box would be checked on all the dress code policies that have that statement?
And A through E remain checked.
Yes. Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Any other discussion?
The main issue here, in my opinion, is whether or not a person's dress is a distraction to education. I do have some concerns, but obviously we'll talk about this all day, but I don't think we need to add it. The way I said what I thought. So as long as, yeah, it doesn't matter. We're plowing the same dirt we plowed before, so I'm done.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of this particular motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same,
Aye.
and the motion passes. Move on next to Michigan High School Athletic Association resolution. Board action is required to approve the participation in MHSAA for the 22-23 school year. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Discussion?
Have to do it.
That's right. Kelly, will you call that roll, please?
Yes.
Leon? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Mears?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Mathis?
Yes.
Yes. Next, we'll move on to School of Choice resolution. Board action is required to approve participation in School of Choice for the 22-23 school year. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Oh, that's right. Gosh darn those resolutions, they trip me up. Kelly, please call the roll.
Mears?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Mathis?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Searle?
Yes.
Yes. Group contracts. Board action is required to approve the renewal and changes in the contracts for bus drivers, food service, paraprofessionals, and secretaries as presented. I will entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Thank you for going through the process and getting everything settled. Appreciate it. It's a lot of work, but appreciate it very much.
All four groups, we were worked together very well, and was very pleased with the entire process.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that motion carries. Individual contracts. Board action is required to approve the renewal and changes in the individual contracts for the following employees as presented. And if you want to do it as the entire group, please include that in your motion.
I just make a comment that, again, remind you, this does not include, the only contracts not included would be for Haley Denny, Athletic Director, and Thomas Custer, full-time sub. I'm working with Mike Iyer, UCEA, and some changes, the letter agreement we will need to do in order to finalize their contracts. So we hope to have those next month.
I'll make a motion to approve all of the individual contracts.
Support. Any other discussion?
For a year, correct?
They are with extension by 1 year, so for those contracts that ended this June. They get 1 year. For those that those contracts ended in 2023, they get extended here to 2024. So that would be primarily your principals, business manager, basically administration, those that have the 2-year contract, which you already voted back in April to extend. So this is just the financial terms.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and motion carries. No bids. Board action is required to approve the bid from Cedar Crest Dairy for 22-23 milk and dairy products as presented. Food service director Debbie Dahl recommends Cedar Crest as they offer skim milk, and the students seem to prefer Cedar Crest milk. I would entertain a motion for the same.
Support. It's a whole milk discussion.
Scott Dale's not here, so I can't talk about it.
We have a strawberry milk on Fridays.
Any discussion on our milk situation here at Union City Community Schools?
We need a whole milk vending machine. We'll see how the students pick. I have a question.
On milk?
No. We're having taste testing for the chicken. We have taste testing for milk.
I vote we have oat milk,
Oat milk?
cashew,
It's better than almond
almond.
milk.
I think you're gonna have to go higher up to
Because those are all US
talk
made.
to the federal government about it, the foods program about that. They don't like oat milk.
Just give me two, I mean, give me something.
Since they're paying for it, it's kind of like.
Throw me a bone.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that motion carries. We move on now to discussion items, and so we are discussing the construction projects that are some updates from Mr. Katz.
Yeah, I met with the building site committee just before this meeting, shared details with them. Basically, we did not receive bids for our project to be undertaken this summer. We had a couple of companies lined up that we thought were going to bid, but they decided in the end that they would not for the cement work. We did have an excavator who was prepared to do the work, but we could not get someone to do the cement work. So we are looking at putting together something to seek bids this fall for the work to take place next year. When next year is still a matter of debate whether we can get it done sometime before track season or whether it needs to wait until after track season. So that's kind of where we are on the bleachers. The Rotary's been notified, Jim has been notified too. I'm forgetting his last name right now. Agent Maiden. So that they will be using the bleachers for July this year. And so we're trying to do some work to make sure that area is spruced up and ready to go for that. And as we talked with the committee, we're going to look at, Darren asked if we could look at some way. What was it? Darren was it? Look at some way to try to level out some of those bleachers that are really terrible. If we can cut some off and try to, improve them somewhat for this year. So we're going to take a look at it. I'm not making any promises, but we're going to take a look at it. Do what we can. It's just there are too many jobs out there, too many large projects, and it is a very complicated project what they're going to do here for it. It's more complicated than just a small outfit would be able to do because of the piers that are involved in order to sink into the hillside so that it doesn't shift over time. But yet it's not a very large project. It's not like a building. It's not like we're putting a foundation for a large building or something like that. So getting someone to bid on it to come down for what is essentially a couple weeks proved to be more difficult for the group to do.
The obvious question is, what will this do to the overall cost? The donation.
We have no idea. I mean, who knows where inflation will take it. Hopefully bidding it early, well in advance, will make the bidding more competitive, even if we try to make it work. But doing it earlier in the year, doing it earlier in the season, I think might help in that regard. But we don't know. If you go back a year ago, the whole economy, everything is just in turmoil compared to where we were a year ago. Prices, fuel costs doubling. So it's who knows where we're going to be. If fuel doubles again, this will be one of our small problems, put it that way. So.
Thank you.
As far as the other construction projects, we're still on track to begin with those. Next month, either at the end of July or first part of August, we're going to be reviewing the drawings for the HVAC projects so we can get bids. The boiler will be going in as planned. The dual boiler system to go in the middle school in September or October. And then the other projects, the piping in the high school, will begin to take place during the school year. The mains will be put in during the school year so that things will be ready once the heating season is over. At that point in time, then they can begin to bring in the piping directly to those units. They are also, I've seen some preliminary drawings on our high school science labs to do remodeling in there. Patrick has been working with our science teachers on that. We've gotten drawings back, they've reviewed them. I've looked at them, Patrick has. We're going to have some suggestions for them to proceed to move forward. It's kind of important, we think, to do those at this time or during next summer, because if you're making the change in all the water that goes into those rooms right now, you're going to be affecting all that plumbing. We better do it right and make sure we have the other things and have the sinks and all those things in the right place. And then they also are working on drawings for the secure vestibules that we have the grant for, which I'm hoping I'll have drawings on those next month as well. So things are proceeding well in that regard. Hopefully all this stuff will be wrapped up by the end of next summer. That's kind of where the construction projects are. Any questions?
For everyone's edification, project at the middle school will increase. Ventilation also fixes the air conditioning problem in the cafeteria, correct?
Yes, the air conditioning units are going in for the media center, the cafeteria, and the kitchen. To replace those units that are there that are not working.
Those are on track to be put in, not this summer though.
Not this summer. It would take place during the year, likely during the school year, because most of that work will take place outside.
We're trying to bring relief, we just can't get it fast enough.
Yes.
All right. Anything else with that covered? Okay. Staff changes.
I included a memo in your packet regarding the staff changes, and I wanted to put it in as a discussion item just so if you had questions about what we're doing with our staff for the upcoming year, you could ask them. Overall, we're going to have a reduction in staff, and we had a decrease in enrollment in high school with a smaller 8th grade class coming in. So we were originally reducing by one staff member. As you can see in the document, Ben Miller moving to the middle school. And we did that based off of, we had requests, student requests for classes. All of that work has been done very early this year. I want to thank Stacy for that, because it was a lot of work to get that accomplished, and she worked very hard to meet my deadline, which every day I would walk by her office. Are those requests done yet? So that we really had good numbers on the classes so that we could make decisions about staff early. And one thing we are looking at doing, and we haven't actually gotten in place, I need to work with Mike Byer on that, as mentioned there, where Thomas Hester, who has done an excellent job for us as a full-time sub. He's been involved in coaching, and can't tell you the number of people who have come to me and said, we need to make sure we keep him in our district, and he has decided he wants to pursue teaching as a career. So he's under teach for tomorrow, and is beginning that process. He needs classes to teach, and if they weren't here, he would look for them elsewhere. And it worked out well with an idea Amber had for providing some academic intervention for math students, so that one of our teachers, Carrie Adams, would be available in that area. We gave Thomas 2 classes in PE. And so those two things kind of fit together well. It was Amber's idea, brought it to me, said, what if we did this? Would that be possible? And I talked with Sarah, and unless Sarah says no, I just say, go ahead. No, we decided to move ahead and in that area. So we're still working on the details, but we believe that's going to work. In the middle school, we did reduce also by 1 staff member. Ben moved there, so Linda Olmstead would move to the elementary. That's 1 spot. But then we had another spot that we reduced by. And one of the things I told Jamie this year was I want to try to, I'm making a commitment to keep the middle school at 3 sections per grade level. Even though our 5th grade is slightly below 6th, or incoming 4th grade right now is at like 58, something like that. What is it? Shouldn't have told me that right now. But, okay. Thank you. Going up and down and having either a large group go through the middle school or dropping below 60 and dropping down 2 sections is really disruptive to their ability to work together as teams in the grade levels, and to have a teaching staff that can plan on what they're doing. And it means every time we go through with that section or 2, it bumps not just that group around, but a bunch of people around to make it work. Totally changes their schedule. So I'm really trying to I've told her, I said, we're going to try to stick with 3 and make it work. And if we have to beat the drums, we'll drag some kids from somewhere else if we have to. But if we go on the other side of that, if we get to large classes, I'm going to say, no, we're going to try to stay at 3. We're going to figure out a way to make it work, even if we get up to some large numbers, because that'll give them some consistency. So we're going to really work hard to do that. So then that takes us down to the elementary, in which we're replacing the teachers that we have lost in retirement. But we also had a position, we have Janice Regal worked in Title I as a, what was her actual title?
Title I community coordinator?
No,
I don't know, it was a while ago. And
is that what Janice's title was?
Yeah.
Slash, but there was a slash part. I know, but there was a slash part. Community Relations Coordinator. So you forgot the slash. Okay. We had a couple of things going on. We were really tight on having enough planning time for the elementary teachers, and it has created problems with schedules for a while. Jennifer had talked to me about replacing Janice with a certified teaching position doing Title I academic interventions. And then Patrick came to me with an idea regarding a pullout for science in the upper grade levels. So I had an idea, and they didn't push back hard enough, so we're doing it to give them both a little bit of what they wanted. So we're hiring someone we've hired someone, because you've already voted on it. She will teach 3rd and 4th grade science as they pull out. So our 3rd and 4th grade teachers should focus on the math and reading as priorities. The students will be pulled out for their science. So that makes it possible to have one science lab, essentially one room, set up specifically for that the students will go into. And then the rest of the day, she will do math interventions with students. Did I explain that well?
Yes, thank you.
So when you say math interventions to all grade levels, you mean all grade levels in elementary school?
In the elementary school, that's what I meant, yes.
I was about to ask how they could do K
No,
through 12
I meant in the elementary school. Yes. We have reduced, Janice's position is gone. We also reduced the title position of parapro with the reduction of kindergarten sections. And so I know that we still have some work to do on our title budget. As I was discussing with Patrick yesterday, was it just yesterday? Oh, actually this morning. The title budget will mostly be personnel now, in order to pay for not only that, but also the pay increases that we really need to make. That thankfully the board personnel committee was on board with, so, and the board has voted for it. So that's kind of a summary of the staff changes that we'll have. So,
with changes that happen through the year, and now with our one full-time sub going into a teaching role, where do we stand as far as the substitutes that we originally planned on as full-time subs for each program? Where's that at?
So Thomas will remain as a sub the other part of the day. Amber has told me that she can work that out so that he will be teaching the 2 hours he's teaching, and during those hours we will have other staff available. The rest of the day he will be working as and being paid as a full-time sub. He will only be paid as a teacher for the hours that he's actually teaching. I did make a terrible mistake in dealing with Jamie, because I had kind of forgotten that Thomas was originally at the middle school all year, and that he swapped when when Samantha fit. I was looking for Samantha. I had game problems. When Samantha went to the middle school to fill in, then Thomas came to the high school. So when she approached me with the idea, I kind of forgot and didn't talk to Jamie and tell her that she was going to be losing him to do that. So she has Samantha, though, will be available to do the middle school full-time sub position. We still need to hire someone for the elementary full-time sub position. After talking it over with the principals and looking at the data, we are going to need to fill that position, because we no longer, the law that allowed us to use parapros to fill in has expired, or will expire in this month. So we will be back to not having that opportunity.
I'm kind of confused with all the things you're saying. Will we still have be permanent subs?
We will have 3 of them, yes. However, in the high school, Mr. Pester, if we can work out these details with UCEA, which I believe we will, he will be teaching classes during 2 hours, so he would not be available for those 2 hours. So for those 2 hours, we're going to work the schedule out in such a way to make sure we have teachers on planning time available, that they could fill in those 2 hours at a place where we would need him to fill in the rest of the day.
And that's going to work out good? I mean, taking a teacher planning period away?
Before we hired the full-time subs, that was what we needed to do on quite a regular basis.
Right.
And Amber has assured me that she's
I trust
confident that is going to work out.
Is it going to work, Amber? That's a lot of big words. Is it gonna work, yes or
It
no?
is the best option. She persuaded me this was the best option. I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. Point at her.
Yeah, but if anything goes wrong, we blame her.
But she brought the plate and she persuaded me and I agree this was the best way to go.
I don't want to ask some more questions because this is taking a long time, but is Mr. Custer going to be teaching weightlifting or just helping? Going to be instructing weightlifting. He's going to be a weightlifting teacher.
He will be the teacher. Oh, is that what he was at? I didn't hear the strength and conditioning part. I'm sorry.
One
It's like
final,
I'm getting some sort of.
one final question, just from a standpoint of, I taught and wouldn't want to suck. What would it cost to hire another sub? The high school?
A full-time sub position. I would have to look at what I don't remember the contract amount for this year, for the upcoming year, but I believe it's we paid them about $120 a day. This last year, I think I raised that by a small amount to around 125, something like that. It's an hourly rate, so roughly that amount per day, plus retirement, like that. So the total amount, I could look it up. I have a spreadsheet that has that in it, but I could look that up for you. Do you want it right now? I can give it to
I don't want it right now. We can consider it if this blows up in our face.
Well, obviously, if it blows up in our face, we will fix it.
Okay, well, so.
But I don't
just
think it's
threw
going
that out-
to.
Just threw that out, because that's what I do, throw things out.
Good. Yeah, I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to work out excellent.
I'm
And it's
sure
going to give us.
it's going to work out.
And it's going to give us, you have to remember, it's also going to give us someone doing academic interventions in math with students that need help in order to get through. And that's something we've needed, and it's something we're going to, hopefully, we'll see how it goes this year.
I got nothing.
Any other questions,
So,
discussion?
We did a lot of, you can see in the different buildings, we did a lot of fine tuning to address different needs that people had to try to get as best we could within the financial resources we have to try to meet everybody's needs.
And now we have information item of Enhanced Connectivity Fund grant.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention in the community. We received $260,000, which basically provides $400 per device purchase. So it's for approximately 650 devices that we will be purchasing, not this summer, but next summer. The money has to be expended by the end of December. So next summer, the devices we have in high school and middle school will all be 3 years old. So we will be able to replace those with new devices and sell the existing devices. And then we should be set with devices for students for essentially from now for the next 4 years at least. We should be all set. And probably actually beyond that to 5 years without any more expenditure from the school budget.
I can have an outstanding loan for those devices.
We should not, no.
That's good.
Yeah, the lease payments are paid, the last one through the ESSER funds. And so we will not have that part, that 100 and how many thousand in our budget for those items for the next foreseeable 4 to 5 years.
Will we need to order them sooner than next summer if there's a backlog of people ordering and, things getting to us through the supply chain? I need to be concerned about that.
We'll a year from now, we'll see how things are, but probably we won't order too early because people come out with new devices and we want to make sure we get the most recent model. So probably sometime going early, because the money can be expended anytime. Probably sometime in April, May is when we'll look at ordering them. We also want to remember that we generally get like a 3-year extended warranty with those. And we want that warranty to extend through the end of the school year. so that we don't get them too early and have damage or something that we need to deal with. So we want them to go through the end of May. So we would look to order them at such time that we would not take delivery until after the 1st of June.
Great. Any other questions, comments, discussion? All right, we'll move on now to our second public comment area. This is the section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about Union City Community Schools. We ask that you limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow the others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do we have any public comments in this section?
Tate Goodwin, parent of 3, Union City Schools. Just wanted to comment about the changes to Neola. I have been critical of Neola policies in the past, and it seems that all of us should be critical of Neola because every time they come up with a new policy, they move us one step closer to Chicago, New York, San Francisco, or LA policies, and I'm pretty sure many of you would go there and decide that you don't want your community to look like those communities for many reasons. So there's a reason why half of schools have declined to not pass those policies. And then in current events, nearby school districts are dealing with students who identify as furries. So giving them policies to dress as cats is probably not productive for being in school. And us as a society deciding not to play along with the delusion is not harmful. Our school should probably make a recommendation for a student to seek mental health treatment. So that's probably something that you're going to deal with in the near future because it's happening just several miles away from here. And there's parents asking for litter boxes to be put in their school so that the furries can use the restroom. So adding policies that give them stance so that they're protected and my kid is not protected is a step in the wrong direction. So thank you.
Hello, Andrea Patton, and I also have 2 in Union City School, and I also had a question about the ANOVA decision. If a child comes to school and the outfit is disruptive, where does the child change? Is it based on their gender identity or their actual gender? Is there something we have in place to make the current student who identifies as their gender comfortable to a student who doesn't? Is there a neutral ground we have in place? And is that something we have to consider going forward for all students?
Great. Okay, if you'd like, Mr. Katz can contact you and answer your questions at a later time.
So I have a question about what the school board's gonna do about, do I need to come over?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because we
That's
stream
okay.
online,
That's okay.
it helps people that are listening to be able to hear you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Olmstead. Most of you know who I am. My question is, what is the school board plan on doing about the girl and the 2 girls that premeditated a nasty attack on my daughter?
We don't answer questions at this time.
Okay.
This is a time to bring issues to us, and then we can go on them from there. So, is Mr. Katz aware of the situation
Absolutely.
that you speak of? Okay.
Absolutely.
Then, until we can get that information, because she is protected under law, that information doesn't come out to us,
Okay,
then I would say Mr. Katz can get back with you at a later time.
okay, thank you all.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? All right, at this time, we will be going into board roundtable. Does anyone have anything that they would like to discuss?
I brought up a while ago about giving recognition to people who've been working here for a long time, and I know that we're all busy, and myself included, and not spend a lot of time on it, but I'd like to just propose something, I guess. Anyone over 25 years of service in this district would be recognized somehow. And if they were 30 or 35, maybe they would meet a different location or a different way to recognize them. Patrick had an idea, I thought really good, and kind of jived with what Archie and he had talked about in terms of where that might be. And he had mentioned a tree up there that's dead anyway. I know we can't. The elementary school may feel left out by putting things here because where the main hub of the district is and where the sign is and everything else. So I would propose, and I'm willing to donate my time and my backhoe to dig that tree up. If someone would be willing to help me find a replacement tree. And then maybe someone could help find bricks or some long-term items that we could set out there that would highlight people who have been here for a long time. So I'm not good at making pretty things. I'm not good at, making things, but I can rip trees out. So I'm offering that to someone, to Spencer, whomever. Give me some heads up, I can't do it tomorrow, but my point is I think that's probably the most appropriate place to do it, as opposed to putting up individual buildings. People can come anytime, it's an open public area, they can come walk the walk and see, so-and-so. But yeah, I don't know anything about the bricks, that kind of thing, but I'm willing to donate my time and effort for the tree out if that helps.
I will admit this has been on my back burner for the last month and a half. Everything on that plate. And those are good ideas. And I'll take a quick look at that and work out something bring back to the board.
I know Paula was recently working with the committee and group that did the bricks at the tower for the people up there in town, in the middle of town. So maybe you'd be able to follow contacts or like where you got the bricks from. Like Chris might be able to contact them.
I have the information for where they did the pavilion.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
Yeah, I have that.
Oh, okay.
Chris Mathis gave that to me. They actually reached out to him because they were wondering with our athletic project if we might want to do something out there. So I do have that kind of information. So
that's what I was talking about. Okay, great.
Chris is a good man.
Yes.
That's the only comment I want to make.
Mine is really for, I think, Sarah, maybe Sarah and Chris, but Chris, you had mentioned that with the change in technology that's going to happen next year, that there might not be a pull on the budget for a number of years. But as we are doing the budget, would you just please remind this board, hey, there's a line item in here, and it used to say 100 or 120, and at some point in the future, it's going to say 120 again, so that there's going to be new board members, and they're not going to remember that. And when you go 3, 4, 5 years without a big pull like that, I think that can be a shock. So just a reminder every year to say, great news, this year's not the year, but it's coming.
And we're not planning to reduce that line down to nothing.
No,
But
that's a great savings.
It is.
But I don't want someone new to not understand that, and so every year if they hear that, hey, remember, then it's just not.
There are some other. I did talk with the finance committee and building site committee earlier tonight about one area we're looking at spending some money on that might come out of technology capital outlay. Would be getting clocks that in our building are all synchronized using IP so that they all actually have a somewhat accurate time as opposed to what we have now, which is anybody's best guess how close it is to being right. And so that's something that's in our thought process. So there are a few small things like that, but I agree it needs to be remembered that we need to have a way to fund those things. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, so impressed every meeting with how the staff is all working together, brainstorming and finding ways to take care of our weaknesses in the free schools, taking care of those kids one by one. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
I just wanted to say that I was really moved by attending the Charter Academy graduation. That was phenomenal. And I want to make sure that Amber gets the acknowledgement that she needs for working with that, and Stacy, Mr. Widener, who's not here. I gotta tell you, I still, if somebody asks me about it, cannot describe it without tearing up, because it meant that much to those students, to those families, to other community members, and to people like me. I mean, that was amazing, and I loved every minute of it, and I can't wait for next year's. It was phenomenal, so thank you very much. Yeah. Anybody else have anything? All right, then I will take a motion for adjournment.
Support.
I got it.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
So then that's why I can start.
That was after before that time.
How are
Basically, she didn't recognize it. And they were very private, and then she's there by herself, and so she really didn't broadcast it.